Now, as it turns out, we've got a couple more checklist items to cover a little later in the show, but right now, I'd like to welcome our first guest, acclaimed author, speaker, and personal finance expert, Larry Winget. My old friend Larry Winget is an icon in the world of personal development, self-help, and fiscal responsibility. His fame is the result of 6 national bestsellers and thousands of stage and television appearances. As the host of A&E's Big Spender, Larry visited people in financial crisis and advised them on how to solve their problems and how to avoid repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again. We're happy to have him back on our show again. Larry, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to start by sharing a few of your book titles, which make me laugh every time. The first is Shut Up, Stop Whining, and Get a Life. The second, Your Kids Are Your Own Fault. The third, You're Broke Because You Want to Be. And last but certainly not least, my favorite, Grow a Pair. So I know that one of the things that you're a big believer in is the importance of personal accountability when it comes to your money. So what words of advice can you give to people who maybe haven't had personal accountability up to this point, but now want to make that New Year's resolution and really want to take control of their finances?
Well, first of all, resolutions don't really come true. Plans come true. So I would tell people, if you want to be more accountable and responsible with your money, get yourself a plan. I would say the number one thing you should do in terms of a plan for your money is to figure out where you stand. It's remarkable to me how many people don't have a clue where their money even goes. So sit down with a sheet of paper, get yourself a pen, and write down how much money you have to work with, who you pay, when you pay them, how much is left over. You know, it's really pretty simple. Figure out how much you earn and how much you've got to spend every month, and hopefully you end with a positive number. So you don't want to be a red number down there. So figure that out first. That's the first place to start. And most people never do just that one basic thing.
Now, I can hear some people now listening to the show saying, well, I'm an income earner. I save a lot of money. I earn a lot of income. So I don't have to worry about budgeting. He's talking about budgeting. But
yeah, I am.
But isn't it true that even high income earners can benefit from budgeting, that there's a lot of money going out the door they might not even know about?
You know, I love it when people say, well, I'm a high income earner, or I'm this and that, and I don't have to do that. The reality is, a new study, research just proved, 60% of Americans either spend all or more than they earn. So unless I'm only talking to the 40% out there, which I don't believe I am, I'm telling you 6 out of 10 people listening to me right now spend all their money or more money than they're earning. They've got to get control.
And you might get somebody who's watching our show right now who combined income makes, let's say, $300,000 between 2 spouses, and maybe they're in their 50s, and you know they're maxing out their 401ks, so they're feeling like, wow, I'm saving a lot of money. I'm putting $20-some thousand a year a piece in the 401ks. But still, isn't it true that a lot of times when they go through things with a fine-tooth comb, they might be able to find another 10, 20, maybe $30,000 a year that could go to their balance sheet, that could maybe help them retire earlier or do better things during retirement?
Yeah, I contend that about every single person, regardless of their level of income, has about 10% of waste in there. So when you actually sit down with pen and paper, you can find a lot of waste. You know, people have always started to think in terms of nice to haves and needs and wants and all that. I think you have to think about needs, wants, and can't live withouts. And most of the things you want, there's 10% in there that you're currently spending money on that you could just do away with. Spend your money first on the things you can't do without, then on your needs, and then cut back 10%. That's not very much. And there's a lot of waste that goes on in every single person's life, regardless of how much money they earn or don't earn, that they could fix immediately.
You know, we come back from the break, I want to talk about credit card debt and how much money could be going out the window there. But in the last 15 seconds or so in this segment, tell us, you know, why is it, do you think, that people get in so much trouble with credit cards?
I think because we have a tendency to live by other people's expectations, and we want to keep up, and we want to look good, so we end up buying things that we don't need and can't afford to look good in front of people we don't even like.
The dreaded keeping up with the Joneses. Wow.
Exactly.
You're so right, Larry. Larry, stay with us. We'll be right back. And for our viewers, you stay with us also. We have many more words of wisdom from Larry Winget. We are back with Larry Winget, star of A&E's The Big Spender and personal finance expert. Larry, welcome back.
You bet.
So I have to tell you, that incredible collection of cowboy boots sitting right behind you, is that a want-to-have or is that a must-have?
That's not fair. For me, those were need-to-haves, I got to tell you. That's so much a part of my brand. I have over 100 pairs behind me, and I've got 40 more pairs in my other closet. But I love my cowboy boots.
That's what makes you such a more interesting guy than me. I've got a collection of boat shoes, commonly known as docksiders, but the problem is they're all brown. They all look the same, so it's kind of boring. But
it is boring.
That's right. It's not as cool as what you have behind you there. So credit cards, teach our viewers a little bit about, and I know they know this, but still, I want to have them hear it from you. What the impact that having credit card debt, for example, really does to people's ability to save and invest over the long run. People, I think, oh, I'm getting 10% interest. That's not so bad. But what's the long-term impact of having that kind of debt?
Well, when you look at where we really stand in this country in terms of credit card debt, the average household has $15,500 in credit card debt. And the average annual percentage rate is 15%. That's just on average. If you have a credit issue, you're paying much higher than that. And chances are your average credit card indebtedness is higher than the $15,500 as well. And when you figure out if you're making minimum payments, you owe $10,000 and you're making minimum payments, 25 years from now, you still haven't paid the principal off. You're going to spend all that money just paying the interest. So it doesn't make any sense long term to have that kind of debt. People often ask me, I'd like to invest. Where should I invest? And I always say, I'm not an investment counselor, but I can tell you this. If you have a credit card, pay it off. That's 15% return, and you're not going to find that in most of your investments.
Okay.
Pay off your credit card debt first.
Okay, Larry, but as you implied at the beginning, you said, it's not about New Year's resolution. It's about a plan. It's about a strategy. So someone who's not self-disciplined like this, what's a good plan for them to be able to get these credit cards paid off? How do you get people psychologically, mentally to make that change and have that self-discipline?
Well, the first thing you do is you really do have to get out a sheet of paper and write down who you owe, how much you owe, and when it's due. Then you look at any excess money. And everybody has excess money, and if you don't, figure it out. You can cut 10%, as we just talked about, and then start whittling down on those credit cards just as quickly as you possibly can. However, you cannot whittle down on your credit cards if you don't stop charging on those credit cards. So put them away and hide them from yourself if you don't have any discipline. The key is don't keep adding to the debt. Only spend what you can afford to pay for, and don't go deeper in debt while you're trying to pay it off. And so stop spending on your credit card, buy what you can afford to buy, and whittle down with every extra dollar as much credit card debt as you possibly can.
And then let's say I get that paid off. Tell our viewers in the final 15 seconds or so, I know you're not an investment counselor, but now how do I adopt that self-discipline to start investing once I paid off those credit cards?
Well, then you figure out where your level of risk is. If you're very risk averse, don't put much in something that's going to possibly lose you some money. So find out what your level of risk is, how much you can afford to really invest. Meet with a good investment person, somebody who understands you and your long-term goals.
Sure. Not
just your short-term goals, but where you want to be in 10, 15, 20 years. That's very important to think long-term.
Larry, I love it. Great words of wisdom, and we have to leave it there right now. But thanks for coming. I hope you'll come back. It's been a pleasure, Larry. Thank you.
I appreciate you having me.